Verses 1 to 10. Here is, a direction to the judges in scourging malefactors, v. 1 to 3. It is here supposed that, if a man be charged with a crime, the accuser and the accused, actor and reus, should be brought face to face before the judges, that the controversy may be determined. If a man were accused of a crime, and the proof fell short, so that the charge could not be made out against him by the evidence, then he was to be acquitted. Thou shalt justify the righteous, that is, him that appears to the court to be so. If the accusation be proved, then the conviction of the accused is a justification of the accuser, as righteous in the prosecution. If the accused were found guilty, judgment must be given against him. Thou shalt condemn the wicked, for to justify the wicked is as much an abomination to the Lord as it is to condemn the righteous. Prov 17:15. If the crime were not made capital by the law, then the criminal must be beaten. A great many precepts we have met with which have not any particular penalty annexed to them, the violation of most of which, according to the constant practice of the Jews, was punished by scourging, from which no person's rank or quality did exempt him if he were a delinquent, but with this proviso, that he should never be upbraided with it, nor should it be looked upon as leaving any mark of infamy or disgrace upon him. The directions here given for the scourging of criminals are, that it be done solemnly, not tumultuously through the streets, but in open court before the judge's face, and with so much deliberation as that the stripes might be numbered. The Jews say that while execution was enduing, the chief justice of the court read with a loud voice do 28:58, 59, and 29:9, and concluded with those words, PS 78:38, but he, being full of compassion, forgave their iniquity. Thus it was made a sort of religious act, and so much the more likely to reform the offender himself and to be a warning to others. That it be done in proportion to the crime, according to his fault, that some crimes might appear, as they are, more heinous than others, the criminal being beaten with many stripes, to which perhaps there is an allusion, Lu 12:47, 48. That how great soever the crime were, the number of stripes should never exceed 40, v. 3. 40 save 1 was the common usage, as appears, 2 Co 11:24. It seems, they always gave Paul as many stripes as ever they gave to any malefactor whatsoever. They abetted one for fear of having miscounted, though one of the judges was appointed to number the stripes, or because they would never go to the utmost rigor, or because the execution was usually done with a whip of 3 lashes, so that 13 stripes, each one being counted for 3, made up 39, but one more by that reckoning would have been 42. The reason given for this is, lest thy brother should seem vile unto thee. He must still be looked upon as a brother, 2 Th 3:15, and his reputation as such was preserved by this merciful limitation of his punishment. It saves him from seeming vile to his brethren, when God himself by his law takes this care of him. Men must not be treated as dogs, nor must those seem vile in our sight to whom, for aught we know, God may yet give grace to make them precious in his sight. A charge to husbandmen not to hinder their cattle from eating when they were working, if meat were within their reach, v. 4. This instance of the beast that trod out the corn, to which there is an allusion in that of the prophet, Hos 10:11, is put for all similar instances. That which makes this law very remarkable above its fellows, and which countenances the like application of other such laws, is that it is twice quoted in the New Testament to show that it is the duty of the people to give their ministers a comfortable maintenance, 1 Co 9:9, 10, and 1 Tim 5:17, 18. It teaches us in the letter of it to make much of the brute creatures that serve us, and to allow them not only the necessary supports for their life, but the advantages of their labor, and thus we must learn not only to be just, but kind, to all that are employed for our good, not only to maintain but to encourage them, especially those that labor among us in the word and doctrine, and so are employed for the good of our better part. The law settled concerning the marrying of the brother's widow. It appears from the story of Judah's family that this had been an ancient usage, General 38:8, for the keeping up of distinct families. The case put is a case that often happens, of a man's dying without issue, it may be in the prime of his time, soon after his marriage, and while his brethren were yet so young as to be unmarried. Now in this case, 1. The widow was not to marry again into any other family, unless all the relations of her husband did refuse her, that the estate she was endowed with might not be alienated. The husband's brother, or next of kin, must marry her, partly out of respect to her, who, having forgotten her own people and her father's house, should have all possible kindness shown her by the family into which she was married, and partly out of respect to the deceased husband, that though he was dead and gone he might not be forgotten, nor lost out of the genealogies of his tribe, for the firstborn child, which the brother or next kinsman should have by the widow, should be denominated from him that was dead, and entered in the genealogy as his child. v. 5, 6. Under that dispensation we have reason to think men had not so clear and certain a prospect of living themselves on the other side death as we have now, to whom life and immortality are brought to light by the gospel, and therefore they could not but be the more desirous to live in their posterity, which innocent desire was in some measure gratified by this law, an expedient being found out that, though a man had no child by his wife, yet his name should not be put out of Israel, that is, out of the pedigree, or, which is equivalent, remain there under the brand of childlessness. The Sadducees put a case to our Savior upon this law, with the design to perplex the doctrine of the resurrection by it, Mt 22:24, etc., perhaps insinuating that there was no need of maintaining the immortality of the soul in a future state, since the law had so well provided for the perpetuating of men's names and families in the world. But, 3. If the brother, or next of kin, declined to do this good office to the memory of him that was gone, what must be done in that case? Why, he shall not be compelled to do it. v. 7. If he like her not, he is at liberty to refuse her, which, some think, was not permitted in this case before this law of Moses. Affection is all in all to the comfort of the conjugal relation. This is a thing which cannot be forced, and therefore the relation should not be forced without it. Yet he shall be publicly disgraced for not doing it. The widow, as the person most concerned for the name and honor of the deceased, was to complain to the elders of his refusal. If he persist in it, she must pluck off his shoe, and spit in his face, in open court, or, as the Jewish doctors moderate it, spit before his face, thus to fasten a mark of infamy upon him, which was to remain with his family after him. v. 8:10. Note, those justly suffer in their own reputation who do not do what they ought to preserve the name and honor of others. He that would not build up his brother's house deserved to have this blemish put upon his own, that it should be called the house of him that had his shoe loosed, in token that he deserved to go barefoot. In the case of Ruth we find this law executed, Ruth 4:7, but because, upon the refusal of the next kinsman, there was another ready to perform the duty of a husband's brother, it was that other that plucked off the shoe, and not the widow Boaz, and not Ruth.